lady, too. I like that. I like friendly guests. Yes. Her name is Ursula Booth. You are a physical therapist.
Correct.
You've been serving patients for more than 25 years since you received your degree from the University of Texas Health Science Center at San Antonio. You work extensively with people suffering from back, neck, shoulder, knee, and foot or ankle pain, as well as helping in the recovery of patients with post-operative conditions and chronic pain. And boy, oh boy, who has not had pain at some point in their life and they're like, oh, I'm just getting old. Mm-hmm. Oh, here's one. I had some relatives in my family. They would say, it's raining outside. That means my joints are going to start hurting. You hear that a lot?
We hear that a lot.
Yeah. Some old wives' tale stuff.
There's a little bit of truth to
really?
Some of that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just the way the atmospheric pressure affects joints, that sometimes people can get some changes around joints due to weather conditions. But it is something.
It's not an old wives' tale.
It's not quite. I don't know all of the science behind that, but it is a common complaint.
That's interesting to know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, listeners, if you're having pains, and she's only going to be here for 30 minutes, okay?
That's right.
So if you're having pains and you have questions, by all means, call in. We're going to present some information as well. 317-239-1310. 317-239-1310. So we haven't got started talking to you. Already my lines.
Oh, wow.
Lighten up, folks. I have questions about pains. And so listeners, as you know, with anyone I have on the show that works in the medical field, the information you're going to hear today is not designed to substitute or contradict your medical provider's care. But the information presented is designed to inform you and actually encourage you to maybe go out and do your own research from credible sources so that when you do see your medical provider and you have concerns and questions, you'll have some information.
Correct.
All right. Welcome to the show, Ursula.
Thank you, Terry, on behalf of Team Rehabilitation Physical Therapy. Thanks for having me.
You are certainly welcome. All right. I provided the opening. You work with people who have pain.
Yes.
So is pain always in our head, or does it always accompany aging?
Wow. So, that's a loaded question.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons why I say that is because pain can be complex. So we really can't narrow it down to one specific thing.
Yeah.
People come in, they'll say their back hurts, or maybe it's a knee or shoulder or neck or foot, etc., a variety of reasons. Mm-hmm. But not just those joints can be the source of pain, or muscles can be the source of pain. There are social factors, stress, there's other things that are happening in their life, work situations. A number of things can compound the effects of pain that may be relatively minor, and then exacerbate that and make something minor seem a lot more painful than what it actually is.
Mm-hmm. So the questions here focus mostly on strength training.
Correct.
So, but I want to get back to the stress issue as well, because everybody has stress. Everybody has stress, and that can play a key component in your overall health.
Correct.
So let's talk about strength training, why it's important, particularly for aging adults, and why do people lose strength with age, and why is strength training often overlooked?
Sure. If I could start off with just a little bit of story, I think it gives a little background on why I feel that's important. As I was growing up, my great-grandmother lived on her own, lived in her home for many, many years. And, back in those days, we didn't have washing machines and dishwashers and the things we have now. And she was able to take care of herself. She did her laundry. Walked down the back stairs of her home, hung laundry up on the line. On the line, remember that? Yep. Yeah. So, she did all that, and she was doing well. And then there was a relative who had power of attorney over her care, who felt that she had reached a certain age, and maybe now it was time for her to go into a nursing facility, a nursing home. Yeah. She did, and she did not. She no longer had those things that stimulated her, that kept her active and moving, that she was doing in her home. And this was many years before I became a physical therapist, before I knew what I was going to do, but it helped shape my role as a physical therapist when I did decide on this profession, because I saw that change that happened to my grandmother. And it was a comparison of what she was able to do when she stayed in her own home and when all of that was taken away and she was in a wheelchair and very little stimulation. And I saw that change for her. So it was very important for me as a physical therapist to help people understand that because we reach a certain age or there's a certain point that comes in life, that we have to maybe stop doing certain things. We don't have to stop doing those things. And the way we maintain or keep our abilities up to do those things is to make sure we work on our strength and remain active.
So as we get older, I know, a 60, 70-year-old is not going to have the body of a 20-year-old. I mean, that's just reality.
Correct.
But as we get towards the age of 60, 70, 80, we don't necessarily have to automatically assume that all we have to do is just sit around and not do anything.
That's correct.
Because our bones and joints won't allow us to be active and mobile and functioning.
That is correct. When you think of a physical therapist in healthcare, as a healthcare professional, you can consider us like your movement experts. Yeah. Our job is to help people when you have joints that are stiff. We do a variety of hands-on treatment approach to help joints that maybe are stiff don't move well. We're educated in providing the correct type of form with exercise. So if people have fears based around things like that, we can help them know how to do the exercises correctly. Oftentimes there's this fear that lifting heavy weight is going to result in you injuring yourself. And with the proper education and training, people can move on from very lightweight. Maybe they start with just body weight training and move on to handheld weights from there. And it very successfully can lift heavy weights. In our clinic itself, we have people that are lifting 35-pound bars.
How old are they?
They're in their 50s, 60s. We base it based on the person's ability. So a lot of times what happens with folks, they think that because, as you mentioned earlier, 50, 60, 70, I'm not supposed to be doing deadlifts or doing squats. But if you want to remain functioning and active in your life, it's necessary to do these things. If we take, for instance, a squat, squatting is necessary for getting up off a toilet, getting up out of a chair, moving in and out of your car. Yeah. So to take that exercise activity away from an individual because of some assumed fear is not really helping that individual be able to maintain motions like that as they go through aging.
317-239-1310. If you have questions or comments about what you're hearing, particularly as the new year rolls around, everyone has the New Year's resolutions. I want to get in shape. I want to lose weight. I want to feel better. I want to sleep better. I'm going to tell you something. Weight training can help you in those areas.
Absolutely.
317-239-1310. Or if you have a relative in your family that you're concerned about their inactivity and you know they should be doing something and they know they should be involved in some level of activity, call 317-239-1310 and speak with Ursula Booth. She is a physical therapist. She can answer your question for you. So let's talk about weight training. And one of the biggest myths, I hear this all the time. If I lift weights, I'm going to look like a man, particularly if a woman. If I lift weights, I don't want that big, bulky look like a man. Right. And I tell them, you're not going to look like that unless you are one of those competitive bodybuilders and they train and they eat and they sleep a particular customized way to look that way.
Yes.
True or false?
It is true. Again, that's another complaint that I hear. It comes to mind a patient that I was working with who was very resistant to doing weight training because of that. But in actuality, as we age, there's some hormonal changes that occur that prevent that type of bulkiness and muscular development in women, and so women don't need to be afraid of doing that. When we see images of people like that, they usually are providing some sort of supplementation to that process as well that gives them that shape and form. And so women don't need to be concerned about developing that type of bulk unless it's something they want to do. But what happens with aging is that we lose somewhere between 3 to 7% of our muscle as we go through life, about 3 to 7% every decade. So unless we have a way of countering that, then we'll continue that process of going downhill with aging when we don't have to. And I know that, there's some concerns associated with, I'm getting older, and and maybe I need to not do certain things. But if you do them correctly with proper form, have the advice of a physical therapist to guide you through that process, then there's no reason why anyone can't do that safely.
I want to talk about, and I'd like for you to create the bridge between exercise and weight training and osteoarthritis and osteoporosis.
Correct.
First of all, define what those are,
yes.
Osteoarthritis, osteoporosis, and then how can exercise, be it weight training or just light cardio or something, can assist with those disorders?
Sure. Let's start first with osteoporosis, which is just a term for a thinning, so to speak, of the bone. So again, as I was saying earlier, things start to change, and when we age, some folks are more susceptible to the loss of that bone mass, and that's what osteoporosis is. The way weight training helps with that particular condition is that your body responds to stresses. And when a muscle tugs on a bone, it creates a stress on that bone, which stimulates it to develop more bone growth. So this is another reason why strength training for people who have been diagnosed with osteoporosis or osteopenia, which is the beginning stages of osteoporosis, it's important to have some tension or stress against those bones to offset that condition. When we talk about osteoarthritis, that's often known as maybe a wearing away of the joint structures around bone ends, and it's the term bone on bone, or I'm losing my thought there, but the osteoarthritis is a wearing away of the cartilage around the bone ends. Yeah. And the way strength training helps with that is to provide support to a structure that's beginning to lose that cartilage that was supporting between two bones. So I always tell my patients, if you come into the clinic with a degenerative condition, you're going to leave with that degenerative condition. We can't change a process that's already started to occur within the body. But what we can do, some of the symptoms, like with the osteoarthritis that are affecting that joint, if we can get the muscle stronger to help support that, a lot of the symptoms that people have related to pain associated with that condition can be helped.
So are older adults the only segment of the population that can get osteoporosis or osteoarthritis? Or can it happen to, I don't know, maybe a 20 or 30-year-old who's very, very athletic and uses their bones and joints repetitively?
This is definitely going to be a condition that's more related to age. Although typically women 40 or above.
All right, let's go back to stress, because you've been mentioning that throughout our interview here. And listeners, I highly encourage you to call 317-239-1310 if you have a question about what you're hearing. I recently have been dealing with tendinitis on my right foot, right at the heel. And I was really stressed this week. Yeah, thank you. I'll keep that in mind. I was really stressed this week, and I could feel the stress in the area where I'm having the tendinitis.